Hey, everyone. Been a little while. I've had COVID. Not sure if you've heard of it, but yeah, that's sort of knocked me out for the last few weeks. So yeah, I've not been able to make anything. So this is me making something again. Starting off in the usual sort of way, kind of blocking out something, seeing how it feels using Grid Modeler, having a little play, starting kind of messing around with the lighting quite early. As you know, I like to do this just so I can work out exactly where we're going to see detail and when we're not. Even if it changes later, it's kind of a nice way to work to begin with. So I definitely would recommend it. I'm using the physical atmosphere plugin, which is expensive, but I think it's totally worth it. But you could do this without. Yeah, so again, just kind of blocking things out here. I'm still not sure at this point what I want it to be. I think initially I was going to make a building, and what often happens is I plan to do that and then it turns out to be a spaceship or something else. So, spoilers, that is what happens. So yeah, here just having a play with the Atlas materials, using DreamUV to unwrap everything. And yeah, those I'm still using those materials quite a lot. I need to make some new ones, but yeah, they're still really useful for this kind of thing. Here we're using Random Flow plugin, which most of you will have heard of probably, but just to create these greebles. Adding in a couple of engines from my Kitbash library, and I've doubled up the model, so I've just copied and pasted it. It's a good way of kind of creating extra detail without having to do a lot of work. So yeah, just sort of duplicating that, so we're going to go double of it. Again, still playing it. I'm at this point kind of like feel like I've got something that I'm happy with, which is always nice this early on. Not always the case. Sometimes it takes a lot longer, and sometimes you just give up. But yeah, it was nice to kind of find a shape that I was roughly happy with here. And now it's just a case of adding extra bits and seeing what works and playing with the lighting, and all of that's kind of happening at the same time, really, to try and keep it an organic process. Here I'm adding a light to give this sort of like red slash across the front to kind of sort of like replicate a setting sun that's sort of like kind of set behind something behind camera. I do this a lot. It's a good way of just kind of creating a little bit of interesting lighting on the front of your model rather than having something flat. So yeah, I recommend trying that. Playing around here with a few more assets, some aerials which I didn't like, and now feet. So yeah, this is a little bit of a process, just trying to make it not look silly. It looks a little bit like a chicken, but yeah, we get there in the end. These assets are just assets from my library that are really good to use for like just blocking things in quickly. Like sometimes I'll use those and then make something new, or just make use those if they're working. For this, they worked fine because of the lighting and stuff. You couldn't really see that much of them. So yeah, here I'm having a go at some texturing fun. It's a guy called Rasmus Paulsen who has been working recently on shaders that make things feel like Kitbash models. He's doing incredible work, and yeah, he posted some behind the scenes of his node setup, so I'm kind of stealing a couple of bits of that. I'm not trying to go the full way, but this is using kind of edge detection, a little bit of trial and error here from me, but yeah, to try and make the edges feel kind of worn and scratched, which I eventually get to. And again, I'll make this shader available in my library, but yeah, it's a really kind of fairly straightforward technique. Like, you could just screen grab this video probably and recreate it. It did take a little bit of fiddling around, didn't work automatically, just making sure I got the right images in the right place. But yeah, I'm slowly kind of getting there with it. I actually ended up, so yeah, here you can see sort of like these edges now are kind of beginning to feel frayed. I actually ended up painting over it later on Procreate, so yeah, you can't really necessarily see it that much in the final thing, but definitely worth having it as a shader. Yeah, here just kind of like getting a feel for it, playing around with the lighting still. I think around this point I was beginning to realise that I probably need to see more of the spaceship. I often like having things going off frame. I think it makes it feel like there's a wider world out there, but sometimes with a kind of chunky spaceship, you just want to see it. So yeah, I was kind of panning the camera across. Here I'm adding some bits, just duplicating what's already there and making them bigger, so there's nothing particularly complicated, and playing with the angle. So not everything was at a 90-degree kind of flat angle. Sometimes a way that something really looks like a render. So yeah, trying to just kind of create these kind of like bizarre angles that don't really make any sense, but hey, it's fine. Here, changing the camera lens angle. Originally I was on a quite long lens, and now I'm on a quite wide lens, and I move the camera in. Again, that's a personal preference thing. I think this spaceship just looked better on a wider lens. So yeah, that's why I did that. Continuing to play with the color balance and the lighting here. Just kind of getting a feel of what I can get away with. It's surprising how much you can get away with lighting that isn't naturalistic. But yeah, so I've kind of added that green in. I don't think I keep it. But yeah, it looked fine. It was kind of interesting, which is surprising. Here I'm kind of pushing the physical atmosphere app a little bit, plug in a little bit further. I'm just trying to play with the sky, see if I can find a sky that will actually work for the render. Often what I'll do is export a transparent PNG with no sky, and I'll add my own sky. But for this, I think it worked out, as you can see here. Kind of found a sky that worked. And yeah, so I keep it, so I didn't have to kind of replace it later, which was nice. It saved me a little bit of time. And now we're kind of like, at this point I'm kind of 95% happy with it. So we're kind of into the final kind of tweaking things now, which I could just go on and do forever. At some point you have to call it a day. I think we're about 2.5 hours into it at this point. Yeah, so I'm just kind of like adding kind of aerials and just making sure that there's nothing that I've like massively missed. Here I'm dishing the camera, just tilting the camera on its side slightly, just again for fun. Kind of worked, so I kept it. Adding some sort of like foreground stuff here, just to like make it feel like we're looking through a window. Again, frames it nicely. Sometimes I'll do that, sometimes I don't. I kind of like the immersion that it gives you though. Tweaking the lighting again. Yeah, and then rendering it out. So here we're in Procreate, doing a lot of my usual tricks, smudging things, adding some highlights and blooms. You can see here probably there's like white outlines that I'm putting on certain parts of the model just to make it stand out a little bit more. Adding some cables underneath. Super easy to do. Trying to do a little bit more painting on this one, so where I'm actually painting on top of, a whole new texture on top. Something I've not done a lot of, but yeah, I'm kind of trying to get closer to a kind of Ian McHugh picture on this one, or a Hamish Freighter, and kind of really doing a paint over, which I wouldn't normally do, but it was really fun, and I'm glad I did. And all I'm doing here is just throwing things at it, building layers, trying things out, and yeah, seeing what works. Adding a few more cables, some more sort of edge highlighty stuff, trying a few things out, and then that's it with the final grade on it. So yeah, fairly quick process. Very much enjoyed it. It was really nice to get back on the horse post-COVID. So yeah, hope that's been useful, and yeah, I'll be posting more stuff up soon.